I'm Crystal Bueckert, the Heritage Policy and Designations Advisor with the Heritage Conservation Branch here at the Ministry of Parks, Culture and Sport. So welcome to our first day of our 2026 Heritage Webinar Series. We hope you all enjoy this year's presentations. So before we start, I want to acknowledge that Regina, where I'm located today, is in Treaty 4 territory, which is the traditional land of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and home of the Métis. We make these land acknowledgements out of respect and as an act of reconciliation to those whose land we use and share. These webinars are an opportunity to learn about some interesting historic places around the province and the work that individuals, organizations, and communities have done to preserve them. But not just preserve them. The historic places we'll hear about are still serving their owners, their communities in a variety of important ways. As the title of the webinar series implies, historic places are important not only for connecting us with our past, but also for the contributions they continue to make today. There's real social, cultural, economic, and even environmental benefits to conserving and continuing to use and engage with these places. We'll be seeing examples of that throughout the presentations. There'll be time for questions at the end, so I'll ask you to hold your questions until then. And also you can pop your questions in the chat as you think of them, and then I will get to them at the end and give them to Crystal. All right, so I mentioned this at the top, but we'll get everyone to keep your cameras and mics turned off during the presentation. So today's presenter is Crystal Bueckert. She is the senior designer and owner of Bldg Studio Inc. in Saskatoon. She'll be taking us through the Caswell Bus Barns project. This exciting initiative is turning a former 1913 transit repair facility into a vibrant arts and culture hub. She will share her insights into the unique challenges faced during both the administrative and construction phases of the project and lots of in between. I'll let Crystal take this over. I don't need to yap about what she's talking about. I'll let you take over. So I'm going to shut my camera off and I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Krista. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about this project always. There is always an open invitation to just get in touch with me and we'll go for a tour. We love showing people the building, as you don't really get a sense of what's happening until you walk inside. So that is an open invitation and I can give my details at the end. The Caswell Bus Barns has been quite the project. It's very exciting and we couldn't be more happy that we're involved with it. So I'm going to tell you everything Krista explained and we'll sort of just go through the journey of our process. So I am Crystal Bueckert of Bldg Studio Inc. I am trained as an architectural technologist and an interior designer, registered interior designer, and I also have my fine arts degree from the University of Saskatchewan. So I'm sort of an organically grown designer, I guess. And I live in the Caswell Hill neighborhood. So, and our office, as seen here on the screen, is also in the Caswell Hill neighborhood. It's actually across the street from the Bus Barns. And this was one of our smaller adaptive reuse projects. Our office is the old convenience store from 1923. So we've redone it and it's home now. Partway through our journey as Bldg Studio Inc., one of my employees, Kyle, and myself decided we would start developing. So our first project, we chose the hardest project in Saskatoon, the Caswell Bus Barns, to break our teeth on. So prologue, we named it because a prologue is the opening, the sort of the page before the play happens. So we feel like as developers, we're the introduction and we set the stage, and then the user can come in and write the story. So our content today, just some of the things I'm going to go over. Bit of history of the project, which is very varied. Our objectives as the design build process, as a community adaptive reuse process, the vision, and then how that translated into our design principles, and then how that translated into actual construction and reality and the challenges that we faced after that. And then I'm going to show you some before and after pictures of the project. It's almost done, so they're not exactly after pictures at this time. So project history. The Saskatoon Transit, used to be called Saskatoon Municipal, has been part of the Caswell Hill neighborhood since 1912. And the 1912 building is gone at this point, but there are 2.2 acres of land for this parcel, and we have the north portion of that. And the north portion is smaller than the south portion. The south portion actually is slated to be demolished this spring, so we are happy that we are able to save the buildings on our north portion. So what you see here is the 1912 original building that was demolished in 1997, apparently. Every document I look at has different years on this, so maybe one day we'll know what actually happened. But this building was demolished in 1997. The 1921 building is still standing. And then it is connected to the 1948 building you see here on the left, which is one of the major parts of our building. And then built onto that in the 70s, in 74 and 75, was a larger steel structure, like almost zero posts, clear span truss building for the actual repair and maintenance garage. So these buildings were for the repair and maintenance of the buses. The Caswell, the major mechanical functions were happening here on 24/7. So the Caswell neighborhood has sort of been subjected to having this light industrial use in the neighborhood. So you can see in the yellow circle there is this is a 1961 aerial photo of the neighborhood. So some of those original buildings are still there. That yellow portion is our portion. The green circle is our office. So that's our small adaptive reuse. And then that red circle is actually my house. So we're very in this, and we're constantly running across the street to the site. So as a community member and one of the people who's working on this project, it's very close to home. So I think having some heart in it has really helped with the process. So having the original drawings has been amazing. This is a drawing from the 1948 building, which they built when they got the gasoline buses. Up until that, it had been streetcars in the neighborhood. So this was a major build for them. It's a beautiful building. It's so lovely to have these hand-drawn drawings, including the full schematics for the structure for the poured-in-place concrete, the posts and the roof. It's a very sturdy building, and it would have been an absolute shame if this thing had been knocked down. And then connected to it is the 1974 building. And here's sort of the whole floor plan of the 43,000 square foot building that we're dealing with. And we figure it's about 5 buildings put together, various ramps to connect the different parts of the slope of the site as well. So this is kind of what we were dealing with, and what we started with when we started our drawings was actually this document. So it's been really helpful to have this. So the city planned to move the buses out of the neighborhood somewhere around 2009. And they knew they owed the neighborhood something better because it had been so awful for so long. Living a block away, there was about 200 buses driving past my house 4 times a night, every night, as they circled around to go from one end of garage doors to the other side of the garage doors. So the neighborhood really took a beating on this one. So the city knew to collaborate with the community and got the community association involved, and actually did a full concept plan for the South Caswell concept plan with M, did a whole proposal on what we actually wanted in our neighborhood. we had design charrettes, everything. This was all back in 2010. So this has been a long running project. And it's really important that the community was involved in this and have been involved the whole time, as they've really driven that this is an adaptive reuse of and turning into a mixed use building that will benefit the neighborhood. So in 2020, there were quite a few proposals, other developers who tried purchasing these buildings and having various different kinds of plans and planning. And then the last one fell through when COVID happened. So after and sort of during that time, the city had already remediated the property because they knew they couldn't sell the building. No bank would give a developer money for an unremediated building. So the city took care of the remediation, which is fantastic, and then had the building up for sale just sort of quietly. And we decided, why don't we put in a proposal? So 2 proposals came in at the same time, and we were awarded it at the end of 2022. And then we spent the next 2 years negotiating the sale and rezoning, finishing up with the remediation documents with the Ministry of Environment and the consultants, designing and planning the building, talking to all of our stakeholders, our community members, the bank, financing. So it was an intense 2 years and a steep learning curve, and we think we could probably write the book on that now for this very unique project. So part of that 2 years was the rezoning, which the city took care of on our behalf, as they did our portion, north portion, and also the south portion of the lot. So everything was rezoned together, and ours was done with mixed use zoning by agreement, or contract zoning, as you call it in Regina. And I think that gave us a lot of flexibility in how we use the building as mixed use without having to stick to parking requirements, or the front setbacks, the side setbacks, as the building's already in place. And then how to fix in those other uses that the community wanted without having to stick to contemporary bylaw requirements. So last little part about the history. So we got possession in October 2024, and we started demolishing right away. As I said, the remediation was complete. So you can see on the right here, this is one of the remediation plans. And the yellow areas are the suspect zones. So those have been, and the lower ones has been dealt with, and the upper one will be taken care of when we build the apartment building. But as we were digging out for the new sewer, the picture on the left, the remediation and the engineers really liked this one, because the grass seed from 1948 was like revealed when we dug and started sprouting. So I think our contractor collected some of those grass seeds from 1948, and it was just really nice to see like new growth happening in this place that had been abandoned for a while. So our project objectives, pretty like straight out of Jane Jacobs' book for adaptive reuse and mixed use. We wanted to revitalize the building, obviously. It's an innate, like, such good bones, we needed to use it. We wanted to create our diverse artistic experiences in the building, as the community had asked for an arts and culture hub. And with that, having the community engagement, making this a building that the community can be proud of and be involved with, and therefore have the economic growth. So in rejuvenating this existing building, it's serving as an arts and culture hub, and we're breathing new life into the area and sort of becoming a cultural anchor point for the community. It is at the southern end of the community, but it's sort of on the way to downtown, so it kind of does feel like a collecting point. As an arts and culture hub, and knowing that artists would inhabit this building and nonprofits and cultural organizations, we knew that artists can do anything with any building. They're often the first group in a space, in a older adaptive reuse building who come in and make it better because they have a vision. They're so creative. They can do anything with any amount of money. And they're usually the ones that make it great and make it safe and bring that community in. And unfortunately, what happens is they make it so great that then, the Starbucks moves in and then the big fancy office moves in and then they get kicked out. So it's so often that the artist comes in on the first line of succession and then it gets kicked out right when it's just highly functioning. It happens over and over again. I've lost many studios that way. So what we've done differently with this building is these are purchased commercial condo units. So the organizations will own their spaces and they're the only ones that can kick them out. So with that, there comes a financial stability. With how they finance their builds and the space, they don't have to worry about using their grant funding and programming money on a landlord. They own the space so they can focus on their actual programming and what their mandates and vision actually need them to do. So we find that really important for the revitalization of this building, and we're very excited to have artists involved in this space. So this was the main objective that the community wanted us to do, and this was part of the South Caswell concept plan by M back in 2009, 2010. And right off the hop, it was adaptive reuse of the buildings. And they see that corner yellow brick building, the 1948 building, as the heritage site, non-designated, of course. So keeping that building was very important to them. And they wanted to maintain all of the other buildings as well, with the structural considerations in mind. So once the structural engineer was through, and all these buildings that we have on our north portion are totally stable and very good buildings. So we're reusing all of those. So this was sort of their list that came out to do commercial, to do arts, to do mixed use, reuse the buildings, and have it as a community center. So far as to say like retail, daycare, art studios, artisans, food producers, and a market area. So I'm hoping the things that we're not taking care of in this list can get taken care of in the south portion when that goes for sale. So yeah, a very artistic neighborhood, and I think they really nailed it with this one. So just over on the right here is a snippet from M's report. And that's me in the middle photo back in 2009 drawing a site plan for this space. So it's been a passion project, and really happy to be part of the group to take this forward. The community design charrette was amazing. Everyone showed up. We still talk about it. And I think it's just a really good mechanism to get the community involved and to get all those ideas out. And this one worked. Like it's actually happening. So very happy part of that. So those are our objectives and our history. And then we have our vision that we're going to lay on top of that. And with that in mind, we know we have to deal with various artistic experiences and disciplines. We need a place for culture to happen, for community to happen, for those accidental interactions between the groups where there's a synergy and the different groups can start working together. We needed to know that we had to create the places for all of these things to happen, but also not being prescriptive with it. Not building a space and being like, okay, well, that's where you take your phone call, or that's over here is where you do this. So knowing that this community can take care of themselves and they can build this out how they see it happening. So we're trying to be minimal on our side so that it's a grassroots and organic development. And it may not be the fancy door opening that people want to see on the first day of a project, because this thing does need to grow and it does need to develop on its own. But I think that's where the success is going to happen, is like what happens in the years to come. So this is the site. The lower middle is the 1947 and 48 original yellow brick buildings from one of those first photos. So this is the community is calling this the Heritage Building. It is connected to a 1921 portion of the building, which we only found out recently. We thought it was a 1949 building, but things have revealed themselves. So then that's connected to the 1974 and 75 buildings, which is the metal structure, concrete block, 70s, very 70s building, clear span trusses. And what we're doing is connecting that empty space between them with a public atrium. So a very clear gathering space, and it faces south. So it's going to be a very like beautiful, well lit. This will be the main doors into the building. So it's going to sort of connect the thing as a whole. So after we're about to wrap up this building, and the next parcel and phase 2 is the 2026 start of the apartment buildings, which is a 28 unit apartment building, affordable, and there's 9 barrier-free units on the main floor, which is also something that's hard to find in our neighborhood. So we're excited about that. And then the 2027 building, commercial building on Avenue D, is a 5-unit commercial condo, brand new. And then we're hiding the parking in the middle of the site, so no one has to look at cars. And ideally would be building a solar field in the back, sort of as the covering for cars, for shade and for frost, but also as an income generator. So the mixed use of this whole site is basically commercial, retail, community theater, residential, and office. So it took us probably 3 years to get all the right people in the building. We had many conversations with all kinds of groups, sort of revolving door at some points, just to make sure that we were creating good roommates and a community that we knew would work well together. So it was a lot of talking. A lot of people wanted to but couldn't. But I think we got to where we needed to get to. So the community theater is our anchor tenant, and that is Summer Players, GTNT, Gordon Katusis Theater, and On the Boards coming together. And we have a printmaking studio next to that, a ceramic studio next to that, a learning center for adult learning, excuse me, artist studios, sound recording studios, a gallery space, architecture, office, and a retail. Pardon me, I'm not used to talking this much. And then you can see the public atrium in the middle of the space. And that's our center focal point. So it's very important to the whole building. Again, the doors are coming in from the bottom. So to explain this, one thing of showing a floor plan, but to explain our vision to these people who are coming into this like dirty building when we first got it, we made these vision boards, and these are really important to communicate to everybody how the space is going to feel and how you can take an industrial building and adaptively reuse it into these functions. So on the left, we have just some general vibe of the building and how the atrium can look and the overhead doors. And then the right, we have the theater space, which there's really high requirements for theater space. And so a big box is the best place to start. The office spaces and studio spaces Again, using that sort of raw space, easy for people to understand and for an arts organizations to understand. And pottery, gallery, excuse me, and just using that natural light and those natural elements of the concrete and the metal structure. Design principles. So the adaptive reuse mixed use project, we're aiming to thrive through that artistic expression and the community involvement and engagement. And with that, sustainability with the project and inclusivity, so that we can make this culture grow and have economic growth in our area. Oh, excuse me. So with our design principles, and you get a building like this, it's very important to use what you've got. And there's so many things in this space. The writing that people have done on the walls, the old paint colors, various signage, quite interesting. The Estevan bricks there in the middle picture with the caulking as pointing solution. So a lot of surprises along the way. And then on the right, just how all these old buildings were put together, and then, you know, the roof leaders just running through the space, sprinklers everywhere, lots of mechanical and electrical solutions sort of done ad hoc. So dealing with these things, we need to know that we had to be flexible and maybe not too precious about how we were going to deal with some of these problems, and to celebrate them. Excuse me. Celebrate the historical significance, the architectural significance of these buildings, and really showcase what they are. So this is the difference between the 1974 and the 1948 finishes, and how we needed to sort of blend them together, but also reference each other. And then how do we add the new brick? We found a pretty good match with a Hebron brick that was very close. It just needs like 40 years of diesel fumes on it to match. So having these together and knowing we had to be flexible in all of this usage, and reusing the signage as well. Excuse me. So fixing the building is one thing, and then making it look good was the next thing. So we wanted to create some simple spaces visually and not put too much into it. So by incorporating the story and life of the building and telling its narrative. So we wanted to unmask the materials and not cover them up, to make reference to them and celebrate their history. So that means keeping things simple at the start, like I said, and leaving room for it to grow and be flexible and not over prescribe what our design is going to be. So everyone can make it their own. This will be the future lobby. This is under construction right now. So that's the main doors into the atrium space. We're just putting a light metal mesh ceiling covering so that you can still see the metal grate and the ventilation systems. This will be the community room. So we have one space available for rentals from the community. We're just polishing the floors and revealing the brick and adding some wood for warmth and sort of something a little bit more human in the space, but a very simple reuse. It's going to be used for meetings and workshops, etc. So the empty portions of the lot, we want it to be a part of a cohesive whole. And this future residential is on the left and future commercial is on the right. So we're using brick that matches. We're using that metal. Here, I'll just go back. this metal siding again, but in a little bit more of a contemporary way. We had many designs for these buildings. We knew we wanted the whole development to sort of look like a whole, but I tried like red brick and different colors of the siding. And I actually did a poll with our Instagram followers with all the various materials that could be possible for these buildings. And the community basically unanimously spoke that they wanted it to stay the same as the original buildings and to sort of create that heritage feeling. So they chose these two. So next came construction. All our visioning is done. We have our stakeholders, we have our buyers, we know what the uses are going to be. And now the dirty work begins. And we joked that this is the easy part because we know how to build. And the previous years were sort of a steep learning curve. So we started demolition in October of 2024, and we're just now handing it over to the new buyers. So I think just over a year. We decided to do minimal drawings for the building because it's nearly impossible to detail everything in here and how to solve every problem. And we had an understanding with our contractor that we're going to solve these issues on site, and we're going to be creative and we're going to be flexible and available to make those decisions. So there were decisions every day, going to site every day. Look what I found. All kinds of things to consider with our budget and our timeline, but we are basically on budget and on time. So I think we did pretty good with that process. We did a design build version with our preferred contractor, Patrick Schwinghammer, seen here on a glorious day. And working closely with him, we've done that before, and we know how to communicate with one another and then how to solve these problems together. And we have decided that this project is the opus for both of us. It's the biggest thing I think either one of us will do, and I believe he's retiring to Italy after this one. So having him on board and being able to make those quick decisions, also being able to make quick decisions in our office, because we're doing the drawings in office, the design in office, the pro forma and business plan in office. So we could really pivot very quickly, like in 5 minutes, we could go in a whole new direction. That flexibility is really important for schedule. So some site challenges. On the left is the mechanical room. We inherited a really good boiler system for the building. So it was all fan coil, very efficient, checked weekly, logged weekly, and maintained really well. So being able to keep our mechanical system and not have to redo everything was pretty important. We did add some rooftop units into the newer parts of the building, but the system is very, very efficient. As we were doing construction and through the last 14 months, including the coldest months, I think last month it was 3 cents a square foot to heat this building. So very, very efficient. That may have had something to do with all the insulation that we added, which I'll get to. So dealing with surprises like how do we fill the clay brick wall? Go find some older clay brick and infill it, and we'll fix it later. However, I don't want to paint over this because I think it's actually a neat quilt patchwork of the side of the building. And the same thing with the blocks. So there's a lot of patching holes and putting new holes in. Finding things like on the left where you take off the old metal siding that they decided to put on in the 70s with some weird glue with strange insulation behind it, and how to fix that and maintain these corners. The picture on the right, we actually found an entire wall of the 1912 building still attached to the 1921 building. So just like a 24-inch thick wall of clay tile. So a lot of surprises along the way. the 1912 building was actually timber, post, and beam, and then attached to this concrete building. So dealing with those things and then kind of celebrating them too, we've decided to turn this into an art mural wall. So I'll just take you through some before and afters here. Before's on the left, that was when we got it in just before we got it in 2022. We took down that radio tower almost immediately. And then we have replaced all of the doors, windows, storefront, electrical, mechanical, sewer, and then fixed up the facade and insulated all of the exterior walls. So a bit of a change to the streetscape for our neighborhood, going from something that was a nuisance to then very quiet for a long time while it sat vacant to now being ready to turn into something lively again. On the left there, we actually matched the brick because it was just concrete block behind that metal siding, and there will be an art billboard above that. So before and afters of this will be the artist studio space. There were actually 9 locations for skylights in this space that had been previously covered up, we think in the 80s or 90s. So we've opened a few of those and really brought more light into the space. Again, those glass storefronts really help with that as well. And then insulating all of the walls. So on the left, this kind of shows like how the mechanical was working, huge mechanical ducts. We took out 60,000 pounds of mechanical ventilation, water, and sewer. And the LORAS bins just kept cycling through the building. So it's a lot lighter of a building now. And then we've replaced everything inside and pressure washed, cleaned it. The joke was 1,000 monkeys for 1,000 days pressure cleaning this building. This was the most significant clean. This is the nicest corner of the building, of the heritage portion. And they used it as the wash bay. So it was really disgusting. That is all just diesel stuck to every surface. So it required a lot of cleaning, and we got it clean, and maybe with a little paint, we can clean it up a little bit more. And then some parts of the building are unrecognizable. We actually took some exterior walls completely down and rebuilt them and added glazing. And again, the ceiling was black with diesel, and the pressure washing revealed the original sort of ivory beige paint. This is the interior space where the buses could turn around. So really great for the theater that's moving into here. There's no posts in the way. And then lastly, this is our first tenant who moved in. The first buyer is the printmaking studio, Jill Ross Studios. And they fixed up their unit quickly after we handed them the shell. And they've been operating in there since January. So it's nice to start seeing that life come in. And it's nice to know that we have these groups of people who are really going to take care of this building and take care of this community. So thank you. If you want to come do a tour of the building, just email me anytime. We're happy to show it as long as we can. People are going to start moving in soon. So we're hoping we have some majority occupancy by July. So that's our sort of realization date, and then look for the party that's about to happen. Thank you very much.
Wow, what an amazing, that was wonderful project to see all of the different, your vision, and then seeing all of that work and giving these buildings a new start that, you know, for the entire community. That was really, really interesting to also hear like the passion and thought that you took in selecting the partners and future users of the building, and that community engagement, even from like the detail to just also the fun of, you know, picking out, you know, products and things and that community engagement and see how connected you are to the community. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So we do still have some time for questions. Yeah, Crystal is here to answer some questions. So if people want to just put up their virtual hand or pop something in the chat, it would, yeah, be great to have some questions. So feel free. Okay, Roger, I think you have a question. You can unmute yourself and.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Crystal. Nice project, impressive. I've been involved in a few projects like this myself, and usually there's a fairly big boost in density residential, and that's what sort of makes all the numbers financially work. I was impressed that this has fairly little or minimal density. And I'm not from the area, but are you in largely a single family residential neighborhood?
Yes, this is an R2 zone, so it's a medium density. Yeah, our project is very low density. We're actually only creating 44 units.
Yeah, because normally, something like this, you'd expect to see a 10-story tower, and that's what, makes the bottom line of the pro forma work.
Yeah.
But so kudos to you that you've been able to figure out how to make it work with minimal density.
Well, we're not becoming millionaires or anything off of this one, but yeah, we figured it out.
Yeah, good for you. All right, well done.
Thanks.
Feel free to put anything in the chat if you'd like a question. Jennifer, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the presentation. Super interesting. Just curious, and maybe you were putting it in between the slides and I sort of just missed it. But is there a governance structure? Is this strictly a sort of private landlord and tenant situation?
It will be a commercial condo, so it will have a condo board, a nonprofit condo board. So the groups with their unit factors for the condo breakout will be responsible for making decisions for the site. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that everyone could get along, because I know a lot of what people are going to be concerned about is some arts programming. So as a condo board, they can make all those decisions together.
Great, thank you.
Just wait a couple more minutes. So I'll just have a question. So for those artist spaces, do you have all those filled up, or are you?
Yeah, the artists do the unit that's just artist studios. It's broken out into 14 artist studios and a gallery space. We got 42 applications.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like clearly there's a need for this.
Absolutely.
And it feels like a drop in a bucket, honestly, but at least we can get it started.
Yeah, well, it's a great thing to have that many, but yeah. Roger, I think you have a question.
Again.
Yeah, no, that's great. Keep the discussion going.
Are you allowed to live in your artist studio space, or is it only for work?
It's only for work. Yeah. The building itself is completely commercial, but we have a feeling that a lot of artists are going to be moving into the apartment building that's about 5 feet away. So I think that's a good enough work-life separation, I think.
Yeah. Good. Thanks.
I have a question in the chat here from Belinda. Is it similar interest with the apartments? Is there a wait list for that, or where are things with?
Yeah, there's people interested. We haven't started taking applications yet because we haven't started building it yet. But I have no doubt most of the interest has come from the building itself. So the artist group, and then people in the neighborhood who want to downsize. So yeah, it won't be trouble filling it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I could see that being very popular.
Yeah, and as a low-rise building too, like again, we didn't overshoot here. It's very modest. It's 3 floors, so it's sort of a sensitive way to go from, because we're going down the hill. The residential neighborhood is like we have a lot of 1.5-story buildings, and then so we sort of grow up into this 3-story building, and then the bus barns, and then whatever happens on the south parcel. We assume that's going to be a larger development, again, because of the bottom line and larger developers taking over. So it's just nice to sort of create that curve of height going into the downtown.
Yeah. Roger.
I promise this will be my last one.
No, it doesn't need to be. We still have lots of time.
I was just curious if the city waived any of your DCC charges or helped you out on the building permit fees or anything like that, just to try and make the project a bit more viable.
Yeah, so the city paid for the rezoning. They also paid for the remediation. We agreed to no offsite levies, which is great because those are always like this surprise thing at the end that get thrown at you. We got a reduction on the cost to do, we're going to build our own sidewalks instead of them building them. But yeah, so some relaxation, a lot of collaboration. Like we decided early with the city, like, listen, we're all in this together. This is a community project. Here's our goal. Let's just all get there somehow, knowing that we're not being greedy. They're not being greedy. So like a real true community project and very grassroots. So it was nice being able to have those open conversations with the city instead of sort of like a us and them.
Yeah, good. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
It's great. Colleen, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah, it's not really a question, just a thank you for this. I worked at transit. I was a transit planning manager for 4 years, and I lived in Caswell Hill for about 16 years and was on the local area planning committee. I know how long this has been kind of on the back burner. So I just want to thank you for all the work you did to bring this to fruition.
Thanks. Come for a tour. Come see it again. It's very different.
Yeah, recognize.
Yeah, I can't wait to come see it. Sharon just had a comment in the chat. So wonderful to see a rebirth of older buildings rather than tear down and modernizing. Way to put a gift of design to work, that's what this is, such a great example of, you know, merging, using the old, merging with new. Yeah, what was your favorite historical part or features of brick, or what a before and after of just washing? That was I was about to say wow in the chat. That's just amazing. Shows you what some cleaning can do. But
yeah.
Yeah,
All of it, just like how this whole thing was put together over time. But this brick on this 1948 building just gets me every time I look at it. So
yeah, nice. Colleen, you can go ahead again.
Oh, I just don't know how to put my hand down.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
I didn't have another question. Just won't touch any more buttons.
That's all right. Just wait another couple minutes. If anybody else has, feel free to just unmute yourself too and ask a question. Well, if yeah, if anyone thinks of any questions, you can email me and I can pass them on to Crystal. So I don't see anybody else's hand up. So yeah, so that just brings us to the end. I just want to say again, thank you so much, Crystal. This is an amazing project. I can't wait to see how it further develops and to hear all of those years of planning. Oh, Dana has a question, unless she's just, it came up and is gone again. Dana, do you have? No, maybe not. It disappeared, so. So again, just thanks to everybody. Thanks to Crystal. Thanks to everybody who attended. So some of you will be back next week on March 25th for a presentation from Lindsay on local communities and how some communities like in Gull Lake have established nonprofit cooperatives to help support heritage conservation and economic development. And then on Thursday, March 26th, we have a presentation on Ancient Echoes Interpretive Center. There's an archaeological sites there as well. So that'll be another great presentation. So late registrations are available. So if you didn't register for one of those, you can just send me an email. I'll just put that in the chat. And yeah. That's it. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks again, Crystal.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.